So good morning, my name is Noemi Ford. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm here today with parts of my team. We're missing one more individual, David and Rachel, and the person who's not here, his name is Gabe Bodson. And so with the four of us, we are embarking on this new adventure, providing pro bono mental health services for the Iowa City refugee and immigrant population. The concept is that David is a graduate student at the University of Iowa, and he will be providing psychotherapy services as part of his clinical practicum. I am a licensed psychologist who will be providing supervision, and Rachel will also be providing supervision in her own area. And Gabe as well, who is currently not available to be here, but he's very much on board and a part of our team. Our information is currently already on the website for Iowa City Compassion. Actually, it's up to date as of Saturday. So if you go under Immigrant Services, you scroll down to the very bottom, it should say Counseling Services, and that should give you a little bit of explanation of who we are. Each of us have a blurb and a photo, and also what is it that we're interested in providing. The only piece that's not available online yet, but it's in the making, as Theresa and I talk about this daily, is a way to online schedule or a way to online contact us. As of right now, if anyone has further questions, feel free to email to the general IC Compassion info email that's on the flyer. I also brought some of my business cards, and I know David has some as well. Feel free to take some of these. Our first official day is this Friday, and we're not going to be seeing clients just yet. This is our first meeting to actually be physically on board and doing things to actually launch the clinical services, which will kind of coincide with the website availability as well. I think Theresa suggested September 2nd is when the online scheduling can actually take place. I wanted to give some time for each one of you to talk a little bit maybe about who you are and what are your responsibilities for this upcoming year. I know that our time is very limited. If you have room for questions, I think we'll be all happy to answer them, or we can continue this dialogue as we progress our work. The one important thing to know that David will be on site, meaning here at this IC Compassion building, providing the individual and group services on the second floor where the offices are more available or suited for that. And there will be some evening hours as well, which is sometimes more appropriate for certain people in the community. So this, however long the IC Compassion building is available for us, so anywhere after 5 p.m. to, 6 or 7, a couple of evenings, but the majority of the hours will be on the day on Friday. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, absolutely. And to that last note, I'm happy to do a lot of those evening hours whenever it's necessary for people, and we'll talk with what the needs of the folks around here are, and we can hopefully be flexible and find just to make sure that we're there and available for the times that people need in case they're working during the day. But my name is David Drustrup, and I do my PhD in counseling psychology at Iowa, and I did my master's in counseling at Northwestern outside Chicago, and I practiced there as a training student for 2 years, and then I practiced as a licensed clinician in Los Angeles for a year, and then last year as part of my PhD program I was at Cornell College and also at the Blank Honors Center. We work with twice exceptional children, so might be kids with attention difficulties and also doing quite well in school or something like that. So I'll be here available between 2 and 3 days a week here, and happy to make my schedule work around what folks need. And I'm super excited to be here. I just said that you and I met a couple years ago when I was here, Teresa. And so.
Do you want to say something about your past, when you met Sunday?
So my research is in racism and whiteness and my counseling psychology program. And so we came here to just sort of see kind of what IC Compassion was about a couple years ago. And then we ended up doing a couple of small projects with Teresa, just kind of seeing what folks needed. And then I took a year away from my program, so unfortunately we haven't gotten to see each other in a couple of years. But seeing that this was an opportunity to come back and be a part of IC Compassion and which it's just my favorite thing in the world. It's like pretty awesome opportunity. So really happy to be here.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Yeah.
It's an opportunity for us as a beginning center to actually reach out to all of you who are representing different parts of the community along the lines of the idea of what mental health is and what the stigma is about and what each culture or each language or each individual believes what is healthy and unhealthy and what is emotional health or emotional unhealth. I think that one of our core goal as a center, as a clinic, is to do outreach, workshops, and programming to various parts of the community that some of you may be representatives of, so different cultural groups or immigrant groups or refugee groups, to actually start a dialogue to allow individuals to express what is hurting them, and that is really what I believe we're doing. We're not doing mental health, we're not doing emotional health, we're working with people who are hurting, and every human being in every culture defines hurt in different ways, but we all have a psyche and we all have a body and we all have a mind, and it hurts the same way. How we're willing to talk about it, who we're willing to talk about this, and how we have been acculturated into even recognizing that something is hurting is a difference. And unfortunately, when people are running for their survival, the least worry on their mind is, oh, I'm also depressed and suicidal, I'm also not sleeping. The number one thing on every refugee's mind is that I'm safe physically and my children are safe and I have food and shelter. And that can take years before a refugee or an immigrant realizes that now that I'm here, now that I'm not being killed, I'm very sad. And I've given up something, I have lost something. And those feelings are never going to go away. And if people are not free to talk about those feelings, they can become so symptomatic that the individual will present in a medical setting where they may not receive the kind of understanding or time that they need in order to process what it is to immigrate, even in the best circumstances, and what it takes to run as a refugee, what it takes to arrive to a country that is not welcoming to you, and what it takes to feel like you don't have a homeland because you don't belong anywhere. So there's so many contextual difficulties here that our plan is to communicate these values that us as a cross-culturally aware and trained clinic would like to provide to people. And I'm hoping that if you have any interest in your communities, that you think that our presentations could support your community or allow a dialogue, even if the dialogue happens between two community members, it doesn't have to be us, but that we can bring these issues to the topic and provide words in which to talk about, because sometimes we don't even know how to put things in words that we're feeling. So I'm very open to receive feedback, and I would love to get your information and contact information if you think that we can provide some services that you think would serve your population or your groups.
I think we want to come at this from the angle of we don't have a prescribed idea for what this has to look like, so it doesn't have to just be trauma from the immigration process for refugee status. It can be really whatever the needs of your groups of folks are. And so if there's something that you want us to look like or offer or shape ourselves around, we want that information so that we can be that for you.
We can do workshops on parenting, multi-generational parenting issues that are well documented in every immigrant community, that it is hard to raise a child who lives in a different childhood than you had when you grew up. There's generational and cultural differences, linguistic differences. Often children have to translate for their parents. That impacts the relationship between a parent and a child. These things can be dialogued, and there's ways to talk and help people to have a better future and move on with their lives. We can talk about other issues that are more trauma related, either because of the consequences of the departure of the homeland, or the consequences of immigration, and even the consequences of trying to make a living and a new life here. Anything that has to do even with how to manage a career when maybe there's a social economical status change. I always say that the most interesting people are the cab drivers in New York City. If you ever meet one, they have a whole life that you would never know unless they had immigrated, and many of them were not cab drivers before they came to the United States. And that does impact an individual's ego and sense of self and how they see themselves in the world, how they see their family and who they came from, who they left behind, the sense of guilt that they may feel or may not feel about their decisions. So these are all topics that I'm just trying to encourage you to think that are possible topics for us.